All right. Well, thank you very much. And first of all, let me apologize to everybody for the technical difficulties. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Yeah, my name is Jegede, and I'm a managing partner at Blooming Edge Group LLC. So we have today Ed Dixon. I will introduce him formally. Because of time, I'm going to probably skip a couple of stuff. But if you are new to us, if you're new here, we would like to, get to know you. So that's if you are new to, the webinar. If you are new, it's your first time joining. Introduce yourself. Let's know your first name, city, and state where you're located, so that we can get to know you better. And I will make sure I, get to meet you on a personal level. So thank you for that. If you're just joining us, if you have been here before, we really appreciate you sticking with us. Thanks for joining today. We'll try to make it a little bit on time. All right, moving forward, I actually wanted to share this. I know two webinars ago, that was, this is September, right? That was in July. I talked about the pursuit of happiness. How many of us have seen the movie? You can unmute, or you can just type in the chat. How many of you have seen the movie before?
Yeah, I've seen
the movie. Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I decided to bring the movie back today because he has something to basically just do with what we're talking about today. So Chris Gardner, The Pursuit of Happiness is actually a true life story for those that have seen it. For those that haven't seen it, you can go watch the movie Pursuit of Happiness. I'm going to play two videos just to illustrate, especially because it has to do with what Ed will be talking about today. So Chris Gardner, during the early 1980s, he struggled with homelessness. He slept in the subway, toilet, public restaurants and places like that, while he was also, raising a toddler son. That was what the movie was all about. You can see it was portrayed by Will Smith and his son, Jaden. Along the line, he became a stockbroker, and he eventually founded his own brokerage firm in 1987. He got divorced because he couldn't afford to take care of his marriage. Right now, the guy is worth in the range of 17 million as of 2021. You can read more about him. He has like 2 or 3 books out there. I just wanted to share, just 2 videos that talks about what the movie illustrates. And this was when he did a job interview. Like I said, the movie portrays his story. So imagine this is non-fiction, and it's telling us the story of the guy. So this was when he actually interviewed for the job. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right, cool. All right, so that was Chris when he was interviewed. I'm just trying to show us a man that doesn't give up. This is when he was hired. Please bear with me, it's just a 3-minute video. But this was when Chris was hired. He went through the internship. It was not paid for. It was an unpaid internship. And he came out first of the class while he was going through homelessness and all that stuff, in the early 80s in the city of San Francisco. All right, thank you very much. Sorry, that took a while. But so let me change my screen share. 3. Give me a second, please. All right. Okay, thank you very much for watching. I just wanted to share that with us. There was one part that actually got me there when, if you notice, he said he had to wear suits. During the old struggle that he had, he only had 2 suits. I went ahead to watch a lot of his videos. He had a black and a blue. So those are the kind of suits that he can actually use back to back that won't show how dirty it is. So, that thing just tells us, like if you have something that what is your passion, you can continue to chase it, and you don't have to give up on what your dream is. And the reason why I showed us those videos is because it actually relates to what we're talking about today, which is financial independence. So I know our time is fast spent, so I'm going to move fast. Today's topic is investing in financial independence and retirement. I have a Dixon 3. Every time I say the thought, it always makes me laugh myself. But I'm like, oh, the thought, it sounds cool. But I met Ed, like, was it 2013 or 2014? I can't remember.
2013, probably, yep.
Okay, yeah, I've known Ed since 2013. I remember he was used to do door-to-door knocking back in the days. And it was at my uncle's house that I met him. And he started talking to us about, retirement. I'm like, man, I just started the job. Why am I thinking about retirement now? I have a long way to go. So technically, I think I've probably known you since when you started financial planning, investing, and retirement. And I can tell you, working with you, you've helped me, you've helped my family, you've changed my life. I always look forward to having those financial discussions with you and projecting how I can maybe be a Chris Ghana one day. So, Chris is, I said Chris, I think I want to talk to Chris Ghana now. And Dixon is going to start, but before he starts, please visit the website bluminet.com/webinar to download the Retirement by Design Participant Workbook. So what he's going to be talking about today requires you to be active with your own retirement, your own plan, what you want to do with yourself. So let me show you what it looks like if you visit the website. This is the website. This is can you see my website? Can you see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good. So download this. This is it. So when you click download, it's going to pop up as Retirement by Design. Then it's going to go through this on a step-by-step so that we can get started. So without further ado, let me change my screen again, and I'm going to hand it over to Ed. Ed, you can start a little bit while I flip over the screen, please. Thank you very much.
But thank you, Dial, for having me. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. For the sake of time, I'll try and make it quick, but I really appreciate Dial playing that clip of The Pursuit of Happiness. One of the quotes that I always tell my clients is, success is getting what you want, but happiness is wanting what you get. And so he got what he wanted as far as the job. So, of course, he considered himself successful, but his happiness was wanting what he got, which was a life that could afford him and his son at that time an opportunity to not have to struggle anymore. So when we talk about retirement by design, a successful retirement is dependent upon what you put into it. And we'll talk about that a little bit in depth today. Again, as Dial mentioned, my name is Ed Dixon III. I've been with Everett Jones now for about 10 years, been in the financial services industry for about 15 total years. You go to the next slide, Dial. And so what I wanted to talk today a little bit is about, the design of retirement. And so a lot of you, especially, have probably heard of SMART goals, where you want your goals to be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. And so it's the same thing when you're planning for retirement. So first, where you're at today, you want to evaluate where you're at today. Again, you can't figure out where you want to be, as Diode alluded to earlier, 10, 20, 30, 40 years down the line from now is for retirement, unless you have a true grasp of where you're at today. And then where you would like to be, this is where you're setting those measurable and clear goals of where you'd like to be come that time frame for retirement. Now, retirement could be age 67 for most of us is full retirement age according to Social Security, but that's really just depending on when you feel like you want the option of having to call it quits. So that could be 50 for some of you, that could be 60, that could be 70, whatever age you feel you're comfortable with is where you would want to plan on. How do you get there? This is where you would work with myself or any other advisor, or even just yourself, to come up with different tools and strategies to help you reach that goal. And then as your life changes, how do you stay on track? This is where you regularly evaluate where you are, whether you're getting closer to reaching your goals or if you're on track towards the goals that you plan for yourself. So you can go to the next slide. Now, when I talk about retirement, it can be a word filled with many types of emotions. So some of the ones you see on here are concerned, confident, skeptical, enthusiastic. Those are some of the ones that stick out. So as Dial talked about earlier, especially as you're younger, you really probably key on more of the uncertain or maybe even neutral because it seems like it's so far away. But this is where we want to key in today to make sure that you are confident and not fearful, not uneasy. You're calm, you're comfortable with the plan that you have, because again, the earlier you start and the more you invest, the quicker you can get to that time frame and the quicker that you can get to enjoying that next stage of life. So we can go to the next slide. So again, today we're going to talk about, your current situation, what your vision is for your retirement. Now, obviously, due to the size of the group, we won't go into everybody's specific situation, but at any point, if you want to talk offline, we can. We want to talk about how you define your goals, how you work towards those goals, how taxes can impact those goals now and in the future, and then obviously preparing for the unexpected and staying on track. So you can go to the next one, Dial. So again, going back to your current situation, you want to take some time and write down some key numbers. And this is a part of that participant workbook. I think it's maybe in the preparing for retirement questionnaire. I'm not sure if that's in there or not. But basically, you want to look at your first is your annual earnings. You want to get a good grasp of how much you're making per year, whether that's at a regular 9-to-5 job, whether that's working outside of your job with any other types of investments. I know rental is a big thing that dials into as far as rental properties. And then the next step is to look at your total value of your retirement accounts. But then that way you can get a better idea of, okay, this is where I'm at now. So you can get a baseline of what you're saving for. So this could be, again, your 401ks, IRAs, looking at what you're contributing on an annual basis, if your employer is offering any types of matches, anything like that. And then once you have a good idea of where you're at today, then you can start to look at, okay, where do I want to be tomorrow? So this is, again, on that Retirement by Design workbook, page 3. Again, we won't go into everybody's specific details, but your vision of retirement is really based on the amounts you need and the strategies that you should use. So remember, you're not saving to just only achieve a large sum of money. You're saving to provide income to meet your retirement needs when you decide to call it quits from your regular job. So now, the further you are from retirement, the more difficult it might be to come up with a clear picture of what that would look like. And that's okay. But we still want to create a starting point for your strategy. So when we look at defining your goals, one way to look at it, and you can go to the next slide, to the expenses slide. So one more up. So again, when you're looking at your expenses, this is how a lot of people base what they want to spend in retirement. They look at what you're spending now and then what expenses will transition into retirement. So just to use round numbers now, if you're spending $80,000 a year currently, when you go to retire, that might go down to $60,000 a year, because hopefully you're in my situation where the kids by that time are hopefully off the payroll, where the house is paid off. Now you just have utilities and healthcare expenses and taxes, things like that. So you want to make sure you're getting a good grasp of where you're at now, so you can know exactly where you want to be come retirement time frame. You can go to the next one. Now, when it comes to saving for retirement, there's what we call in the blue, what you can control. And then the yellow is what, the government or what you're putting into when you're paying taxes can control. So Social Security and pensions have kind of gone by the wayside. They're not as relevant today as they were 20, 30 years ago. Social Security, it's still there and it will always be there, but there'll probably be some type of deduction in Social Security. When I'm planning with my clients, we plan for a 20 or 30% reduction in their benefit that they're looking at. Because again, when Social Security was created, you had about 50 people putting in for every one person taking. By 2032, you'll have 2 people putting in for every one person taking. So there are going to have to be some type of adjustments when it comes to Social Security. And if not, then you're probably going to see a deduction in what your expected benefits are going to be. So the ways that you can save, and what we'll talk about a little bit here today, is through your traditional IRAs or Roth IRAs, 401ks, and then just your regular investment accounts and brokerage accounts. You can go to the next slide. Now, when trying to come up with what you think you're going to need for retirement, I go by what we call the rule of 25. So this rule is just basically, how much you think you're going to need after taxes in retirement multiplied by 25. And that's how you get what you should be saving for when it comes to your retirement goals. The old adage is, it doesn't matter if you have $100,000 or $100 million. If you don't take out more than 4% per year from your portfolio, you should never run out of money. So again, that's how we came up with this rule of 25, of taking what you think you're going to need, multiplying that by 25, getting the number that you're going to get for your retirement saving, and then taking that out at a 4% withdrawal rate. So for this example, the person said they're going to need $40,000 a year to supplement with Social Security. So multiply that by 25, and that's how we got to the $1 million mark. So you can go to the next slide. Now, the thing I want to key in on today is what we call the power of 3. Individually, these things are all great. They can help you when it comes to retirement savings. So whether that's time, money, or earning potential, they all can work great independently, but we're going to show you the power of them working together to help you reach your retirement goals. And in this workshop, you'll see two different savers. You'll see Lauren, who's an early saver in her career, and then you'll see Tom, who's saving closer to retirement. So basically, we can look at both stages of life. So yeah, you can go to the next one. So time is basically pretty self-explanatory. It's how much time you're giving yourself between now and when you want to retire. So you can go to the next slide. If you're an early or mid-career saver, so that's what Lauren is in this picture. She's your average 30-year-old, relatively modest early in her career as far as her retirement savings. But she has one really big asset for her that works for her, and that's time. If she averages even just 6% over time, basically her investment should double every 12 years. So some of you may have heard of the rule of 72. You take the number 72 divided by what you expect to earn on an annual basis, and then that's how long it should take for your money to double. So again, if you have 72 and you divide that by 9, then it should take, you're earning 9% per year. It should take you every 8 years for your money to double. You can go to the next slide. So in this example, when we're talking about time and not waiting to invest, as Dial talked about earlier, when you're younger, you think, hey, that's so far off, I'm not even thinking about that. This just shows you the importance of time and starting early. So in this example, she's saving $450 per month, averaging, again, 6% per year. If she started at age 30, she'd have $640,000 by the time she reached age 65. If she started at age 35, so just 5 years later, you can see that gets cut down by almost $200,000. And then if she waited until age 40 to start saving, you can see she has about half of what she should have based on if she started at age 30. So again, this is why time is important. The more time that you have, the more time you let your money grow and work for you, the more money you'll have come retirement time frame. You can go to the next slide. Now, even if you're closer, you go to the next one, to the later stages of your life, time can still be a powerful benefit to you, where you can say, you know what, maybe I didn't save as early as I thought, but maybe if I just delay retiring a little bit, then time can still work on my side. So you can see in this case for Tom, in this example, if he retired at age 62, he had roughly $16,500 coming from Social Security, and that's the earliest you can take it at age 62. And if he had $650,000, same thing as Lauren at age 62, he could take out the $26,000 from his portfolio, and so he would be short roughly about $42,500. But if you wait, you can see here, waiting just 2 more years to age 64. Social Security goes up to $18,900, and then his amount that he's pulling from his portfolio goes up as well. Now he has $770,000. And again, looking at this all the way to age 70, for the sake of time here, you can see where he's almost doubled the amount that he has in his portfolio value, and how much Social Security has increased by just by waiting those extra years. So you can have time on your side as far as the early stages of your career by saving more over a longer period of time. Or if you're in the later stage of your career, you can have time on your side by waiting to retire and accumulating more as far as your assets are concerned. You can go to the next one. Now, the second one is money. That's the second variable. Obviously, the more money you save, the more money that you'll have for retirement. You can go to the next slide. We'll go back to Lauren here as far as the money. Now, when you look at money, there's a couple things that you can do to make sure that you increase the amount of money that you have to save for retirement. The first thing is be smart about your spending. You want to be able to save as much as possible. And the easiest way to do that is really go through your budget with a fine-tooth comb and see opportunities where there's things that you might be able to sacrifice now to be able to save more and be able to get to retirement earlier, or be able to have more money in retirement. Then you want to use tax advantage types of retirement accounts, like we talked about with your 401k, which is pre-tax money that comes out of your check. And then you don't pay taxes on it until you retire. And hopefully at that time, you're in a lower tax bracket. So you'll pay less taxes over time. You also have Roth IRAs, which are after-tax money. So you want to make sure you can take advantage of that if you're eligible based on your income, because that money will grow without any taxes that you have to pay on it year to year. And then when you go to retirement, regardless of where tax rates are at that point, you'll be able to take out what you put in as well as the amount that it grew by without paying any taxes on it. Another thing that you want to take advantage of is your employer match. I always say there's no better investment than free money. So if your employer offers a match on your 401k, you want to make sure you're investing at least up to that match. Obviously, if you can do more, great. But let's say if they match dollar for dollar up to 6%, then you want to make sure that you're taking full advantage of that employer match. And then lastly, reducing your debt. Again, if you're early in life, you might have started off with school loans or credit card debt. The quicker you can get rid of that, the more that you'll have ample to save for your retirement as well. You can go to the next one. Now, this one, again, going back to Tom, he's in the later stages of his retirement, but he can still be smart when it comes to his money by what I call aggressive saving, not necessarily aggressive investing. Now, again, it's all based on your risk comfort level. Some of you might be okay with investments that are a little bit riskier, whether it's in the stock market, whether it's Bitcoin, whether it's real estate. There's all types of investments that you can look into. But again, if you're saving aggressively, that can lessen the amount of aggressive saving that you would have to do. And then being smart about your spending, kind of the same thing, again, going through your necessary expenses versus your discretionary expenses and verifying which ones maybe you can cut out from as far as discretionary to help you with your retirement savings, and then taking advantage of the catch-up contributions. Once you reach age 50, if you're investing into your 401k, the government gives you an additional $6,500 that you can put in per year into your 401k as far as a catch-up. And then in the Roth IRA, you can save an additional $1,000 per year into the Roth as far as a catch-up. Next slide. So lastly, we'll talk about the power of return. Again, these are the three variables that can help you with your investment savings. Now, you necessarily can't control the return, but you can control the amount of risk you're willing to take to get a higher return potential. So, when it comes to, you can go to the next slide. When it comes to return, the common mistake that a lot of people make is when the market declines, they start to move some or all of their money in what they consider safer investments, such as cash or short-term investments. I always tell my clients it's not about timing the market, trying to say I got into it at the right time. It's about time in the market. So again, most of my clients know when the market drops 5, 10, 15%, I don't look at that as a downturn as far as their portfolio. I look at it as an opportunity for them to buy some investments while they're on sale. So I always tell my wife, instead of buying Christmas gifts or Christmas decorations between October, November, and early December, wait until December 26th, because all those same decorations will be 50 to 75% off. So even though we probably won't use them until the following year, we've paid a lot less for them. And it's the same thing with your investments. You can't look at it as, hey, what am I going to make over the next 3 months, 6 months, or a year? You want to look at this at a 5, 10, 20-year time frame. So when you have those dips in the market, that's where you take advantage of the opportunities to buy when things are on sale. But overall, you want to make sure that you stay invested, because over time, you're going to have a higher return versus trying to time the market as far as getting in and getting out at the right time. You can go to the next slide. I'll kind of go through this really quickly. This is kind of elementary when it comes to investing. The earlier that you're in your investing time frame, the more growth focused you want to be. You want to have a higher risk when it comes to the type of investments that you're investing in. And then as you get, next slide, older and getting closer to retirement or in retirement, you go to the next one, Dial. You might want to scale it back and maybe go balance towards growth or balance towards growth and income. So again, the earlier you are, again, the more aggressive you want to be with your investments. And then as you get closer to retirement or in retirement, that's where you could talk about scaling them back depending on the assets and depending on how much you're taking out. So we talked kind of quickly about the three of those. You can go to the next slide. The time, money, and return variable. So in this slide, it really just shows you how they all work independently, but how they all can work collectively to give you more of a return and more assets by the time you go to retire. So in this example, again, we'll go back to Lauren. If she saves $450 a month, again, averaging 6% per year, starting at age 30, because of the power of time, by the time that she goes to, or excuse me, instead of waiting 5 years, if she did that now, so she's giving herself 5 extra years, she'll have $640,000 by the time that she goes to retire at age 65. Now, if she invested an extra $100 per month, so basically another $1,200 per year, she would, and not doing these together, this is just an independent strategy. Instead of having $450,000, she'd have $550,000 just based on doing an extra $100 a month. And then independently, again, if she invested and got a 1% higher rate of return, instead of $450,000, she'd have $550,000 by the time that she retired. But again, if we put all of these together, so let's say she started and gave herself 5 additional years, she invested an additional $100 a month, and she got 1% higher rate of return, you can see her 450 would turn into 990,000 just by the combination of using all those 3 together. So again, that just shows the importance of time, money, and return being used together instead of independently. So you can go to the next one. And I know I'm going through this kind of quickly just due to time. So again, if you have questions, we'll talk about it at the end, or if you want to set up some time individually to talk about your own specific situation, especially when you're going through that retirement workbook, we can do that as well. Now, again, taxes are one of the things that we all probably hate. We all know that we need to pay them because it helps provide great schools for our kids and roads for us to drive on and other things. But it's still not fun to pay taxes, especially the more money you make, the more they take out as far as taxes. But, you know, we want to look at this $1 million that basically Lauren had by the time that she retired. If she would have took that out, or she would have had that in a non-taxable account, she would have basically only ended up with about $750,000 based off of 25% coming out for taxes each year. So that again shows you the benefit of using those tax deferred and tax-free type of investment vehicles when it comes to your traditional IRAs, your 401ks, and your Roths, to not only be able to save as much as possible, but also be able to keep as much as possible. So again, if you're doing after-tax type of investing like a Roth, and you have $1 million when you go to retire, you'll actually have $1 million to spend because you don't have to pay any taxes on what you put in as well as the growth. And then again, if you had $1 million, whether it's in a traditional IRA or a 401k, and let's say you're in the 25% tax bracket now, but when you go to retire and you really only have Social Security and your income from your assets, which you can control how much you want to take out to help you stay within a certain tax bracket, maybe you fall in the 12 or 15% tax bracket when you go to retire. So again, you're still able to keep more of your money because you're paying less in taxes. So yeah, you can go to that next slide. So again, this just shows you if she would have invested that money into a taxable account, she would have had only $665,000 versus putting it into a traditional retirement plan like a 401k or a traditional IRA, how she has $750,000 by the time that she goes to retire, again, saving $550 a month, averaging 7% per year. So again, that just shows you the power of tax deferral. You can go to the next one. So again, I know I talked about it briefly earlier, which type of retirement account is best for you, the traditional IRA, a Roth IRA, or an employee-sponsored retirement plan. The employer-sponsored retirement plan is usually the first way that most people save, because in that plan, you can go up to $19,500 pre-tax. And then if you're over 50, you can add an additional $6,500 per year into that. So again, up to $26,000 per year. So the benefit of that is it helps you not only save for retirement and helps defer any taxes, but it also helps you on your current tax burdens now, because whatever you put into your employer sponsored retirement plan, you get to deduct from your income. So let's say, I'm just using round numbers here, you make $100,000 a year, you put 20,000 of that into your 401k. Now you're only paying taxes on 80,000. So a lot of times, especially when you're starting to get to the next tax bracket where you're going from, let's say the 12% to 22%, or you're going from, especially now with some of the tax laws that might come into place, you're going from the 24% to the 32% tax bracket. There's ways to strategize to help bring that down in order to maximize your retirement savings, as well as maximize reducing your tax burdens now. A traditional IRA or Roth, the only downfalls of those are there's limits based on the income that you have. For singles, it's 125,000 per year. And then for couples, it's 208,000 per year. And that's your modified adjusted gross income. And so you still can contribute to those, but the tax deductibility might vary depending on what your income is on an annual basis. You can go to the next slide. So again, I know we're really focusing on retirement, but I always want to make sure when I'm putting a plan together for clients that we prepare for the unexpected. We could put the perfect plan in place together, but if we poke holes in that plan and something happens, we want to make sure that you don't have to change your standard of living or you don't have to change your retirement picture. So that always means having cash reserves. I like for my clients to have anywhere from 6 to 9 months of cash liquid. So if you lose your job or you're in transition to another job, you have cash that you can live off of and you don't have to worry about tapping into your retirement savings, especially if they're in a 401k or a traditional IRA and you're younger than 59 and a half. There's penalties for accessing those. So you always want to make sure you have access to cash reserve or even to a credit line. You know, with the prices, I don't know where everybody lives in this on this call, but in this area, in the North Dallas area, prices of houses have went through the roof. So it might even be a good idea just to have a home equity line of credit waiting for you in case you want to access that for any emergency situations or even investment opportunities as they come about. And then lastly, insurance. That's probably the most underserved part of when I talk and work with people is they don't really have a good grasp on how much life insurance they should have. You want to protect your plan as far as saving for retirement, not only from taxes and from time and money and opportunity, but you also want to make sure, God forbid, if something happens to you or your spouse, that your plan doesn't change. So when I talk about life insurance, I'll make it brief here. Life is an acronym. The L stands for liabilities. So houses, cars, any type of debt that would have to be paid off in case you passed away. The I is for income replacement, replacing your income if something happens to you. The F is for final expenses and burial, pretty self-explanatory. And then the E is for education and extras. So for the majority of those expenses, you'll have while you're in your working years. And then when you go to retire, you won't have as many of those expenses. So when we talk about life insurance, we want to make sure, A, you have the correct amount of insurance and you have the right type of insurance to make sure that you're covering what you would need in case something happens in the time frame that you're saving for retirement. So again, for the sake of time, I won't go into the last couple of slides here. I want to kind of leave it open for questions or anything that we talked about today that might have sparked any questions or comments that you guys might have that I could address as well.
All right. Thank you very much, Ed. Let me just say, I know I sent you a text message. I said, slow down, slow down.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is a life lesson. I know we were back on time, but I really want to make sure that we understand this because, this is something that has to do with us growing up and, being able to enjoy our life and our retirement. So I really wanted it to slow down so that people can hear you very well, but you just kept going. So thank you very much. Thanks for creating time to come talk to us. I want to believe there's going to be a lot of questions. So before I open the floor to questioning, let me just say thank you to other people that are not in America. I know when you look at this kind of presentation, it makes it look like this is focused on North America. If you're in Canada, I know we have people from Canada. We have a lot of people from my country, Nigeria. This is more about the knowledge and the education, being able to apply yourself into the retirement. I think it goes a long way. So, thank you very much, Ed. I'm going to open the floor for questioning. And if you have any questions, please put it on the chat group and I will be able to ask the question. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
All right. Go ahead, Jim. Let me
Hi, Ed. Thank you so much for going through that. But I have a question about a strategy that I use. Being in corporate, sometimes you get taxed heavily on your bonuses. So if you're in the 28% tax bracket or something, when you receive bonuses, sometimes you tax heavily about 40% on those bonuses. So one of the things that I do, and I just wanted to check with you and see if you validate that. One of the things that I do is instead of paying that 40%, I go way above and beyond, and whatever within the plan, you're allowed to put up to 50% of that towards your 401k. And of course, maybe by March, April, you hit the 19,005 or something annually. And then I continue to put the rest in Roth, whatever else, till the end of the year if I hit that in. But if I needed some, quick investment that I wanted to do, I will go into that. The plan also allows you to borrow. So that way, and I'll still put the money back, so I'm constantly paying, like, take a loan from me and put it back, but just evade that tax. So I wanted to know what you think about that, instead of just throwing that 40% to Uncle Sam at the beginning of the year, and just use that as a bucket to.
Yeah, I know. Like I said, we talked about a little bit as far as cash reserves or a line of credit. So you're basically kind of using your 401k as your own line of credit, and you're borrowing against your own funds. So I don't have a problem with that. The biggest thing is you just want to make sure that you're putting it back in there within the time frame that your plan allocates. So again, you're not subject to any penalties or additional taxes. But yeah, I mean, definitely if you're getting above the amount that is allowed in the plan, there's other ways to look at saving. I don't know, again, if you have anything outside of work, but if you have your own business, especially I know Dow does a lot with real estate. You can also even set up what's called a SEP IRA. And that's basically for your company, and it could be for you and your spouse or your employees. And in that one, you can also save an additional 25% of your income, or 58,000, whichever is less, and that's tax deferred as well. And so, again, if you have some income that that you are earmarking specifically for retirement, and you have a business where you can kind of have it go through there, there's other ways to lower your tax burden on that as well.
Yeah, thank you. I'll be talking to you about that. I think that's one area that I need help with. Thanks.
Thanks for the
Guy,
question.
do you want me to go ahead and jump into these questions on the chat as well?
Yes, I'm going to do that. So that's the reason why I'm sharing the screen, so that whoever wants to reach out to you can have your office number, your LinkedIn, and your website. All right.
Okay.
I think someone is telling me I'm in the true north. I want to believe that is Canada. So this person says, how can these strategies be applied across borders? Just like I said, most of these things work for US, but he doesn't think his employer has a retirement plan. So how does this investing strategy work? Let's say you are in Canada, you are in Nigeria, how do we go about this? Maybe you should elaborate more on the power of three. I think that is where this comes in.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's different investment vehicles depending on where you're at. Again, whether you have access to a 401k. I know in Canada, we have offices in Canada, so I'm not privy to all what they do there, but I know there's investment vehicles that they use there as well. But I think, as Dial pointed out, the key is the power of three. Whether you're investing in a 401k or any other type of tax deferred or tax-free vehicle, or even a taxable account, you still want to make sure that you're giving yourself time. Time is the most important asset that all of us have, whether it comes to investing or whether it just comes to what we get to do with our life here on this earth that God has blessed us with. Time is the most important one of those variables. And so the more time you have, regardless of what you're putting it in, the greater you have an opportunity for your investments to grow. When it comes to money, obviously, the more that you can put into your investments and look at, taking out some of your discretionary income and looking at that as, more of a long-term savings vehicle. Again, the more that that you'll be able to have your money grow from you. So taxes, that might be, again, kind of depending on where you're at, that might be a variable that we can't control as much, but definitely the time and the amount of money that you put into it is going to give you the greatest return regardless of where you are.
All right, awesome. Thank you, sir. So we have a lot of questions coming in, and if you are still with us, please hang in there. I think the Q&A is actually the most interesting part, because you get to have a lot of wild knowledge and experience. So Kate said, hey, what do you recommend between a whole life or term life insurance for accessing cash later in life?
Yeah, so I tell people term is like renting your insurance, whole life is like owning your insurance. I actually believe, if you can, to do a combination of both. The majority of actually insurance needs or death benefits that you would need, can be covered in the cheapest way, which is through term insurance. So to give you, again, just being transparent with my situation, I have the majority of my insurance in term because while I'm still working, if something were to happen to me, I want to be able to pay off all the liabilities, be able to replace my income for my spouse and my kids, be able to have them bury me, and then be able to have my kids go to school. At this age, they're 8, 10, and 13. Now, if you look 10, 15 years down the line from now, a lot of those needs will not be as relevant. So my kids by that time are either at school or done with school. The income replacement won't be as much because, again, my wife might be working or we have some savings. If something happens to me, she can access. And then there won't be any liabilities because the biggest liability, house and the kids, will be off the payroll. And so the whole life, I think, is good for you if you're already maxing out all of your retirement type of vehicles like the 401k, the traditional IRAs, Roth IRAs, SEP, the SEP IRAs for business owners. And then you still want to either leave a legacy for your kids because term gets pretty expensive once you get past age 60, or you want to use that for retirement savings because a lot of my clients, if they're fully maxing out their 401ks, their IRAs, everything like that, we set up what we call LIRPs, life insurance retirement plans, where it's basically what we call a rich man's Roth, where you can overfund life insurance. And then when you go to retire, you can borrow against it in retirement and you don't have to pay it back as long as you don't access too deep into your death benefit. So to answer the question, I think term life is probably what you need for the majority of your actual insurance needs. Whole life is really only if you're trying to do that once you've funded all of your other investment vehicles, or again, if you're saying, hey, regardless if I die at 60 or 160, I want to make sure I leave my kids, my church, my charity a certain amount of assets, then you can do that through whole life as well.
All right, thank you. Let me just summarize the answer for Kev. Term life is what you get when you're still working in corporate America and you still have a paymaster. Whole time is what you get when you start going to space and you need more money to give to charity. All right, Kev. All right, just a follow-up question. A follow-up question to the question to what you just talked about. Adewumi said, how early should one start life insurance, especially if you are relatively new in corporate America?
Well, I think life insurance should always be key because especially in corporate America and especially in this type of environment that we're in, and COVID really showed us, you never know how secure your corporate America job is, whether that's you by your own choice or design saying, you know what, I want to go to a different company because I have a better opportunity, or your company says, you know what, we no longer need your services. And so if you only have your insurance through your job, if you lose your job or switch jobs, you don't want to be out there without any insurance. Luckily, this has never happened to any of our clients, but it happened to another financial advisor that I know who one of his clients was actually in transition from one job to another. They had a 6-month period where the benefits didn't kick in until he was there for 6 months. And he literally had a heart attack and passed away in month 5 of his new job and left his wife and kids with no life insurance. And so she had to go back to work immediately and change their standard of living. And so I don't think it's ever too early to answer the question to start life insurance. You might start off with a smaller amount. And the benefit of starting early is you're probably healthier at that point. So you can lock in a good health rating and then you can convert it over and, later on in life into a whole policy where you can keep your good health rating, but now they based on your current age. Another reason to do that is if you have a history in your family of, let's say, some type of disease like maybe cancer or high blood pressure or something like that is relevant in your family history and you're healthy now, you might want to lock in your life insurance and your healthy rating now. So then later on in life, if you start to develop some of those hereditary conditions, again, you can switch from term life to whole life, but still keep your preferred rating based on when you were healthy.
All right, thank you very much. This is a question from Ngozi Akinro. She's talking about, you said she only understands Roth IRA. She said, what is the other IRA for couples that allow 25%? You mentioned that in passing. So can you elaborate more on that? The other IRA that allows couples 25%.
Yeah, so that's called a SEP IRA, SEP, S as in Sam, E as in Edward, P as in Paul. And so again, that's mostly, for business owners. if you have income that you can claim from the business, you can put 25%, up to 25% of your income, or 58,000, whichever is less, into this IRA type of account. And it helps you for the business because it's, the business can fund it, and it helps you personally because it helps reduce the your taxable income. So to give you an idea, I have a couple of realtors that they don't have 401k options through their job. So what they do is they open up these SEP IRAs, and especially if it's just a husband and wife or spouse, what they'll do is they'll take some of the profits from the real estate. They'll use that to lower their taxable base. So to give you an example, I have one client last year that when they did their taxes, they owed about $30,000 to the IRS. They end up opening up a SEP IRA. They were able to put in about $22,000 into the SEP, and then they still had to write a check to the IRS for the $8,000 for taxes. So they still have to end up paying $30,000 for their tax bill. But the benefit was only $8,000 of that went to the IRS. The other $22,000 went into their retirement account that now gets to grow tax deferred.
Man, there's just so much thought about retirement right here. All right, I think I have one or two more questions. Then I will go into some questions that I wrote down that I think is going to help everybody. My friend in the True North is saying, can you hook him up with anybody in the North, in Canada? Or do you have any recommendation? I'm not sure what his real location is in Canada, but I just sent him the Edward Jones link in Canada. But is there anybody in particular you would like him to connect with?
If he wants to send me his location or send it to you, and then you can forward it to me, I can find a advisor in his area. I know a couple in like
Ontario.
Ontario.
He's in Ontario.
Yes. Yeah, there's a couple that I can look up. So yeah, if he wants to reach out to me directly, or if he wants to send me his address or send it through you, I can send him a couple people to reach out to in that area.
All right, awesome. Yeah, just to wrap it up, we're about to finish. I have a few questions. So first of all, what is the requirement for opening a brokerage account, or what are the requirements?
So again, when it comes to me specifically, I want to make sure I'm providing value to you. So if you're saying, hey, I want to open up a brokerage account and put $25 a month in, there's nothing wrong with that. I want you to do that. But for the type of service that I'm going to provide, it's not going to provide the value that you need for $25 a month. So it's really based off of your entire situation. That would be more of a, let's sit down and look at what you're at. I always tell people there's three things that are going to happen if we have a conversation. A, I'm going to say, hey, you're in a good spot doing it on your own, or if you're working with somebody else, they got you in a good position and you should stay with that strategy. B, I'm going to say, you know what, I think you could use some help, and either we're a good fit, or maybe I can find another advisor that might be a good fit for you, depending on location and what you're investing. Or C, we can say, you know what, I think you need our help. I think we can help you, and I think we're a good fit and a good match, and we look forward to working with you. So when it comes to saving in general, there's no restrictions on, if you're saving $25 a month or $2,500 a month, that's really up to you. It's just for the services I provide, I want to make sure I'm providing value to what you're looking to do. So that would be more of a one-on-one conversation. But as far as Edward Jones as a firm, we don't have any minimum requirements.
Awesome. Thank you. Second question. Most people, they kind of like, they don't go to investment companies like yours because they don't know what the fees. You read so many stocks online and the fees kind of scares you away. So what is the investment fee? What are the fees that will be charged if I open an account with you?
So again, that's a hard question to answer because it depends on the type of account and how you're investing. I always tell my clients, or even prospective clients, before we put any pen to paper, you're going to know exactly down to the dollar amount how much it's going to cost you. Average fees, I'm going to, generalize and say are going to be about 1% based on the amount that you're investing. But I always equate it to the medical field. If you ask a doctor to write you a prescription without going through a diagnosis, that's called malpractice. It's the same thing in my industry. Me saying, hey, here's a good stock, bond, mutual fund, or here's what I'm going to charge you without really knowing your full situation and what type of investment advice you need, it's financial malpractice. And so, if you ask me, if you put a gun to my head and say, hey, how much are you going to charge? I would say probably 1% is about an average amount that you would pay in fees for investment type of advice. But again, it's specific to your situation and how you want to invest, because there are different vehicles of how you can go about that.
All right, awesome. Thank you very much, sir. All right, next question. What are the key characteristics to look for when picking a brokerage company like yours?
So again, I don't really base it off a brokerage company because you're going to always have good apples and bad apples in the company. You know, it's kind of like if you go fly on American Airlines, depending on the pilot you get, that's going to be your reflection of what American Airlines is as a whole company. And so I always say, look specifically on who you're working with. So if you're, you know, saying you're interviewing 3 different firms, you want to look at the actual advisor from that firm, not necessarily the firm itself. Now, I do like you working with a firm just due to the fact that they have a name and a brand to uphold. So if you're working with somebody who's independent, not saying that they can't be a good advisor, but it's really only their name that they have to be worried about. Versus Edward Jones, we have 19,000 offices across the US and Canada. We want to make sure that we're taking care of our clients because we have a reputation to uphold. But when it comes to the advisor that you're picking, first of all, you want to look at obviously their experience. You want somebody that has some experience in the industry. You want to look at their planning process. Again, that's the difference of the pursuit of happiness that you showed earlier. He was a stockbroker, probably really great at picking great individual stocks. But as far as putting together a full comprehensive plan for you to get to and through retirement, that might not be a specialty. So you want to make sure you're working with somebody that not only does a good job as far as the investments that they're picking, but also puts together a plan to help you get to your retirement goals. And probably just as important is going to be able to see you to and through that plan. Our industry as a whole is an old white man, gray-haired industry. You know, if you look at financial advisors out there and you just Google them, probably 60 to 70% are going to be older white men. The problem with that is, they're going to probably retire before you do. And so the likelihood that they're going to be able to see your plan to and through retirement is probably very minimal. And then B, their values might not be the same as what you are. And so again, you want to work with somebody that you feel comfortable with, that you feel you build rapport with, and that you feel is going to be with you to and through your retirement goals.
All right, awesome. That's a good answer. Okay, I have like 2 or 3 more questions. What are the investment mistakes to avoid?
Well, the biggest mistake is, again, what we talked about earlier as far as time, thinking that, you know what, I don't have to worry about retirement. It's 20, 30, 40 years down the line from now. I'll start saving later on. Or it's thinking, you know what, I really don't have any money to invest. And so I'm not going to do it right now until I get, you know, a big sum of money or a lump of money to invest. Again, the more time and the more money that you have, you give yourself a better opportunity. So when it comes to investing, you want to just start with the discipline. That's all I always tell my clients. If you can only afford $25 a month, start with that. That way you have the discipline to say, hey, each month this is coming out. It's going into my investment account regardless. And then as your income grows and your disposable income grows, then you're already in that discipline. And so you can just increase the amount that you're investing. And then again, that time, just trying to time the market, trying to say, hey, I'm waiting until the market drops a certain amount. It's great to take advantage of those opportunities, and I recommend that you do so. So always having some dry powder on the sideline to be able to invest when the market drops, but always just having a consistent rhythm of investing regardless of what the market is doing. You want to make sure you're continuing to invest each and every month.
All right, I got 2 more questions left, and I'm going to wrap up. All right, so this is my own question. Like I said, 529.
Dayo, sorry, this
Yeah?
is Kes. Can you just get? I think there's a question that may be useful that I would want to, sincerely speaking,
Okay,
it's
go
not
ahead.
conventional.
Okay,
But
go
I
ahead.
just want to. It's basically around HSAs. Now there are quite a few people who use HSAs. They are not really sickly. The money is there. And I know some HSAs do give provision to invest. Can that be a kind of vehicle that one can use? And what does Ed suggest in terms of converting some of those HSA funds into investment vehicles?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're great vehicles, not only to help with unexpected health expenses that might come across. I have an autistic son, and so we invest heavily into our HSA because there's always something that he's going to need, whether it's therapies or whether it's, you know, any type of medical visits. So it's a great vehicle just to plan for that. So it's pre-tax that's coming out. And again, can go into that HSA account, but also, yeah, great investment tool as well that you can use on top of what you're doing in your 401k, on top of what you're doing into IRAs and everything like that. So the only downfall of HSA is usually the plans, as far as the investments are pretty cookie cutter. So I wouldn't say that would be the overall, the best way to invest as far as the types of investments, but it's still an opportunity for you to invest and still has some good investments in there. So I would definitely if you have the opportunity with your company and can fund in an HSA, that's another great vehicle to use as well.
All right, thank you. I'm trying to wrap up in the interest of time. Two more questions.
I have
529
one
plan.
more, Daya.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh, did you say something about 529?
No, go ahead. Yeah,
Oh,
you ask
okay.
the question. That's fine.
Yeah, sorry, Ed. So I have some 529 that I set up. I mean, not much money in there, but I see it's probably doing like 15 to 20% of what my main 401k is. Is there a way to just do away with that and just put everything in one bucket and just eliminate the 529?
You can, but the 529s, you're going to pay a 10% penalty if you take them out and don't use them for educational expenses. So you can't roll those over into like a 401k or into an IRA. If you want to stop how much you're putting into them, you can do that. But 529s, remember, they're very broad as far as what they can be used for. Most people think I can only use it for tuition. You could use it for books, for computers, for room and board. You know, I have a lot of clients, especially here in this area. Their kids go to Arkansas for school because it's in-state tuition for the parents, but it gives the kids an out-of-state experience. But a lot of times that doesn't cover room and board. And so they'll use the 529 to cover those costs. Remember, the beneficiary is also transferable. So you can always change it to another child, grandchild, cousin, uncle, niece, nephew. It can be anybody blood related.
Okay.
And, you know, you can also, again, if you're not seeing that you're going to use it for educational expenses for college, you can also use it now for K through 12 education, for any type of private school or any type of college prep readiness type of courses or things like that as well. So, you know, if you have a child that, you know, you're maybe thinking about sending them to private school or any type of college preparatory type of courses, you can use it for those expenses as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
All right. Well, Jimmy, you kind of stole my question, but not in the right sense. So what I wanted to ask was, some of us don't know what a 529 is. So can you just in few words elaborate on 529 plan, or should I just spend all my money on making sure my kids play sports? You know, maybe that's going to bring the money back.
Yeah. So 529 is another tax deferred and actually tax-free vehicle that you could use to save for your kids' college education. And again, they've expanded it now where you can even use it for K through 12 private education as well, up to $10,000 per year. So let's just say, for instance, you save $20,000 for your kids' education, it grows to $30,000. If you just have that in a regular brokerage or savings account, that $10,000 difference in gains, you'll have to pay taxes on that when you go to pull that money out. Versus if you have that money in a 529 account, you get to take out what you put into it as well as the growth without paying any taxes on it. And again, they've expanded what you can use it for. So it can be for tuition, room and board, books, computers, supplies. And it doesn't even have to be a college. If they go to community college, if they go to barber college, if they go to get their nursing degree and maybe not their BSN or something like that, it can be used for any type of college related expense. And so again, a great vehicle to use, not only for your children, but again, if you start thinking about generational planning, you can save it for your children. And let's say your children get a scholarship or get some other type of grants or anything like that, you can start thinking about saving it for your grandchildren, even great grandchildren, because you can always change the beneficiaries on it.
All right, thank you very much. Final question so that we can wrap up. This is going to be a very long one. Can you just break it down in a layman's terms? Roth 401k, Roth IRA, traditional IRA, traditional 401k. It gets modeled up, and you have to Google several times to understand. What is a Roth? What is traditional? What is 401k? Can you just break it down in layman's terms? Thank you.
Yeah, so a 401k or a traditional IRA, that's pre-tax money. So that's money that you're getting taken out of your income before any taxes are taken out. So it helps reduce your taxable income. I think I talked about the example earlier. If you make $100,000 a year, and let's say you put $10,000 into your 401k, then you're only taxed on $90,000. So not only is it a way to save for retirement and not have to pay any taxes on that year to year, it's also a way to reduce your taxable income. So especially, I know Jimmy talked about it earlier, if you're starting to get higher in a tax bracket, you might want to make sure you're contributing as much as possible to the traditional IRA or to your 401k to bring your taxable income down. Now, a Roth IRA or a Roth 401k is after tax money. So it doesn't have benefit for you now as far as reducing any taxes currently, but it gives you more spending power in retirement. So going back to that example of, let's say you had $100,000 in your traditional IRA or your 401k when you go to retire, and you're in the 20% tax bracket, you can see you only have $80,000 to actually spend because of the taxes. Versus if you have $100,000 in your Roth 401k or Roth IRA that you've already paid taxes on, you actually have $100,000 to spend because there's no tax consequences when you go to start taking distributions from that. So it's always a good strategy to look at where you're at currently, see if you need to put more in a tax deferred bucket that can help you now as far as bringing down your taxable income, or maybe even start shifting that into an after tax bucket that doesn't have as much benefit for you now as far as taxes, but is going to help you down the line have more money to be able to spend in retirement because it won't be subject to any taxes. And we don't know where tax rates are going to be 5, 10, 20 years from now. That has the opportunity to change every 4 years, depending on who's in office. And so the good thing is if you can lock in as much now into a taxable, or excuse me, an after tax account, it doesn't matter what tax rates are going to be when you go to retire because you've already paid taxes on that money.
All right. Thank you very much. I think this has been very, very great and very educative. We really appreciate your time. It's been a wonderful 90 minutes, exactly 1 hour, 30 minutes for us to finish. Please, if you want to reach out, I purposely left Ed's information here. Reach out to him on LinkedIn, call his office. You'll get to speak with Penny. So Penny, she's very wonderful, so she can patch you to Ed. And so thank you very much, sir. We really appreciate the time. The webinar is going to be recorded on our website, or you can check our YouTube channel. Dapo Remadi, I'm not sure if he's here. Thank you very much for patching the videos to the website. So our business website now has the YouTube link where you can actually watch the video from the website. So that is awesome. And if you want to join our mailing list, you can drop your email in the chat. If you would like us to add you to future presentations. And with that, thank you very much. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube. We are active on all platforms. To everybody, I say thank you very much. It's been really great having you with us. And to Ed, thank you for your time, sir. I look forward to a continuous relationship with you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thanks a lot.
All right.